Bundys Garage, Bundy here. Today we were working on a 2001 Honda Odyssey. We're doing the transmission mounts. There's one right here. There's one right over there. One here, one there. 14 millimeter bolts hold this thing on. So what you have to do, there's a bolt right here. There's one on the opposing side as well. And then right here in the frame, there should be holes for a bolt. There's two holes right here for the bolt as well, so you have to go ahead and remove those. At some point, we'll have to get a jack and jack the transmission up a little bit. As you can see, I'll get a closer shot up of that, but it is really ripped and torn. And it's making a clunking sound. Also, the rear motor mount is shot as well. If you go to a Honda dealership or any car parts place, these two are the transmission mounts. There's one in the front of the engine, that's an engine mount. The one in the rear is the engine mount, and there's also one up on the passenger side near the power steering fluid reservoir, and that's an engine mount as well. So just know that when you're looking for parts. I got these parts at rockauto.com. I actually sell a complete component kit, so it comes with all 5 mounts that you need, the 3 engine mounts and the 2 transmission mounts, all in one pack. One of the bolts, nuts you have to take off. There should be another one right here. There's the other one. As you can see right here, the rear transmission mount is ripping. There's another 14 millimeter bolt. The other one's on the inside. This leaking right here is from the CV boot. Constant velocity is what CV stands for. So that one's ripping there. Second one is right there. That's not as bad as the back one, but while you're here, might as well do both of them. Okay, get my 14 millimeter wrench here. Break that loose. Okay, take that one out. We'll take the one on the other side out. So there it is on the back side. Right there. Just get your wrench onto it and undo it. 14 millimeter. Right there you can see I have a 14 millimeter gear wrench on the bolt. If you don't have a set of gear wrenches, I highly recommend that you invest in some. It's an investment. Get a 10, 12, 14, 17, 19 if you're working on Hondas and Toyotas. Acura. Basically my wrench got trapped in there, so I'm working the rest of the bolt out by hand. Alright, there it is. So I got a big old pry bar here. And I'm going to put it in here. See if I can lift up the trans a little bit and see if I can get this thing out. If not, I'm going to have to get a jack. So on the bottom, I forget, there's studs on the bottom that the bottom nuts go into. So I have to clear this whole thing. So next thing I'm going to do is so before you can get the back one out, even though all 4 bolts out of here, you have to loosen up the front one as well, or it's not going to go anywhere. And then we'll bring in the floor jack to move the vehicle up, get the engine higher, so it allows us to remove both of the transmission mounts. When you bring in the jack, make sure you put a piece of wood on the top of the jack, because you don't want metal resting up on this aluminum, the aluminum bottom of the transmission. Okay, let's see how this one is connected. On the back side, the engine mount, there's this bolt right here that needs to be removed as well to get this fully clear to the transmission. I believe that is a 14 as well, but let me double check that right now. Yes, it is. It is a 14. I have this vehicle up on plastic ramps. There's a third one. But if you have this vehicle, if you jack the vehicle up to get to the undercarriage, to get to the bottom of the vehicle, please use jack stands when you do it, just to keep yourself safe and not crush yourself. I wouldn't want anybody to lose their life working on the car. That'd be the crappiest way to die, I think, because it is avoidable. Not only that, who wants to die, right? Nobody wants to die. So yeah, if you jack the car up, if you don't have plastic ramps or metal ramps, you can pick them up from Sears, O'Reilly's. I've seen them at Kmart. Go ahead, pick them up if you do a lot of work on your own vehicles. It is a worthy investment. But if you use a jack and jack stands, or if you use a jack to get the vehicle up, go ahead and use a set of jack stands to secure the vehicle while it's up in the air. Bringing the jack in with a piece of wood to keep the transmission protected. Whole motor assembly is lifting off. Probably because the rear and the front motor mounts are still engaged. Okay, what I'm going to do to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to let this back down slowly. And then once it's back down a little bit, I'm going to loosen up the 4 bolts right on the front motor mount. What you're looking at is the front motor mount. It's actually right through here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 14 millimeter bolts they should be. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to loosen these up, and they're actually not 14s, they're probably 17s. But you'll loosen up these 4 bolts, take them completely off, which will allow the front of the engine to raise up and give you more room while you're removing the transmission mounts. Coming here with a 17 millimeter. These are super tight. What the heck, dude? Why are those things so tight? I have a 1/2 inch 17 millimeter on a breaker bar. So we'll go in here, see if we can get those things loose. Why are these so tight? I didn't think it had been that long since I did this. So once those are out, it'll allow us to raise up the transmission that much higher. So coming back in with a 3/8 17 millimeter. Okay, now they're all nice and loose. And I made a big mistake. These were actually welded. These nuts were welded from the bottom. So you're supposed to take it out from the top. So my bad, I made a mistake. I should have taken these out from the top. But I didn't know. So don't make the same mistake I did. Take these bolts out from the top. What an idiot. Okay, there's 2. Move the wrench over to the next set. There's a bolt. Idiot, man. When I put these back together, I'm going to put a lock washer on them. Just so I know that they stay in place. Okay, got that one out. Like I said, I did this wrong. I should have taken the bolts out from the top. These were welded. These nuts were welded in. So I made a mistake by ripping them out like that. That's why I needed a 1/2 inch breaker bar to get them off and out. Got that last one out. Pull my wrench off. Pull the bolt out. Put the bolt with the nut so you don't lose them. It's always a good practice to line these things up, just so you don't forget where they go or who they belong to or who their best friend is. Have all the bolts out of the front engine mount. So go ahead and start raising this up again. This should give us more room to get these transmission mounts out. Okay, it looks like it's free. What is holding it still? Oh, there's a bolt back there. Oh, there's one. You have to get it from the other side, but I believe it is right here. Man. As you can see right back there, on the transmission itself. There is one bolt left. I'm sorry for the poor lighting, but it actually sits right here on top. So that's one more bolt you have to get out to get that thing, to get the transmission mount off. I'll put a socket on there real quick so you can see where it's at. Right there, it's a 14mm bolt. You have to break that loose to get to it. This is on the driver's side front passenger tire. There's a cover. There's a cover that's blocking this basically, so you have to remove that cover in the wheel well area to get to this. So go ahead and just pull that off, and the transmission mount should fall right out. There's the old one right there. So you can see that was the bolt I need to remove. That was the one I had already removed. And right here is where it drops into the frame of the car. So let's get the back one out and take a look at that one as well. This job would probably be a little bit easier if you didn't have the tire in the way. So reaching right back here, working it out, trying to get the studs to come off, trying to get the studs out of the frame, working it out. Okay, there it is. Right there, you can see that's ripped. Ta-da! Let's go take a look at the new one. So I picked these up from rockauto.com. Like I said, they sell a whole component kit. It actually sells all 5 mounts that you need. So here's the rear one. Good practice, even though it comes with nuts, is to double check and make sure that it's a 14mm, because you don't want to get down there and have to go searching for a different type of socket. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and install these 2 bolts here. Then we'll work my way down on the studs. Okay, so I'm starting reinstallation. Okay, working this front one in place. This front part is higher than the rear one. So go ahead. Try to work that into place. It's actually into the frame. Now I'll lower this down a little bit to line those up, and then I'll bring it back into place to do the back one as well. Okay, now bring your bolt in. Do the rear one first. I'll put the rear one in. Rear one is engaged. You have to move the motor mount a little bit to get it to seat correctly. Got that front one started that I was working on. Kind of a hassle. Had to move the engine mount around a little bit. I had to raise the engine back up just a tad, just to get everything lined up. And I'll do that one right there. Okay, doing the back one now. Having to move the engine mount a little bit. There's a lot of pressure on this thing. Let me raise it up a little bit more. You just gotta finagle it and finesse it into place for everything to seat correctly. Raise it up a little bit more. Okay, bring it down a little. Don't cross thread these things. Okay, it looks like it's in. Let's see if I can tighten it. So now I'll go ahead and tighten these down all the way. Alright, let's do the back one. Okay, double check the fit on the back. Right here. These nuts are the correct size. So just bring up the engine a little bit more. Okay, it should sit in just like this right here. This part is higher than this part. Slide this in. I'm gonna see if I can drop it into the frame. And then once it drops into the frame, I'm gonna start the 2 bolts on the block itself to make it that much easier. Searching around for the holes with my finger right here. Okay, that's dropped into place. Okay, now bring in the 2 14mm bolts for the engine. Leave all these loose until you get everything secured. So I'm going to leave this loose. I did the front one just because I knew that it was already in the frame. Yeah, I got it started. Okay, double check here. That looks good. Those look good. Okay, next will be to tighten up these. Get my gear wrench. Tighten these up. Sorry you can't see this. It's just so confined in here. So tighten these all the way up. And once these are tight, really get your jack out of here. Make it a lot easier if I didn't have this jack stand in the way. A lot easier. Come on, dude. Well, that being said, I'm going to drop this thing down. Get this jack out of the way. Okay, it's in. Let me double check that. Yeah, I had to guide it in, but it's in. Okay, that one's in. That one's in. That's in. That one's in. Okay, start this one by hand. I'm not going to bore you with the rest of this, but basically you're going to do is go around, make sure everything's secure, secure these two, secure the top bolts as well, and then do it on the front. Put your cover back on the front wheel well, and then put your 4 bolts back onto the front motor mount. All right. Key thing to remember is the front motor mount bolts come up from the top, not the bottom. They're welded into place. If you have found any of my videos helpful, please consider subscribing to Bundys Garage. Questions, comments, concerns, you can email me at bundysgarage@gmail.com. I try to answer back all emails and all comments left on the YouTube channel comment section. If you want to see a video about a guy that got crushed by a car and he lived, I'll put a link in the description below. And like always, I'll keep them rolling for you.